G'day iRiders. Just out on Gilby. Taking him for a test ride. So I can feel just how firm the ride is. With the struts and the Springer solo seat. And amazingly, it's not too bad. Surprisingly comfortable. If I was going to be super honest, it's probably actually just as comfortable a ride as Izzy. And it's still got its back suspension in. I was a little bit skeptical. I didn't know if the springs would actually give enough, but they absolutely do, and I'm so stoked. So I couldn't be happier with how the bike looks at the moment. And I've still got a fair few customizations in mind. So guys, there is Gilby so far. We'll just do a little bit of a walk around, recap some of the modifications that we have done, and ultimately introduce you to some of the changes that have been made. So first thing, I bought the bike ultimately as an absolute worn out piece of crap. But it only had about 11,500 kilometres on it, so it was sort of more lack of maintenance than it was actually dead. And so I set to work on sort of tinkering with it, repairing the back brake, bleeding the front brake, cleaning it, changing the oil, doing a whole lot of maintenance to actually get it running really well. From there, next thing I did was replace the standard grips that were worn out with these white grips. They're Coke bottle and they're much greater diameter, so they feel a lot better in the hand. And then I replaced the standard mirrors that were broken and again worn out and rusted with these retro round mirrors. And I think they just look great. From there, I put the pod filters on it. Stage 1 kit. I took the pods from this side, which had a solenoid for the carb heaters. And then on this side, the pod was the air filter, and I removed that and basically replaced it with this, which the frame is the airbox, and this is the sort of vent, just to give it that more bobber look and slim it down. And it's done a great job. It sort of narrowed the bike massively. Previously the pods were by far and away the widest point, and now it's actually the tank, which was what I was after. Next job was cutting down the front fender, bobbing that, and again I think it's turned out amazingly. Looks fantastic. Took 3 or 4 inches off each end, probably took a third of it off each side, and while it's not a savage bob, it certainly has improved the looks massively. Next job was wrapping the exhaust, which came out really well. Looks amazing. Just again gives it that vintage retro look, and it just was an easy job, fairly cheap, and I watched the video to learn how to do it, but it looks great. Just got to get those rounds fairly even, otherwise it can look a bit of a hack job. If you get that even, particularly around the bend, in my opinion it looks great. Drilled out the exhaust, just put I drilled out the exhaust and I put 4 10mm holes in both the top and the bottom in the rear baffle, and increased the sound, made it deeper, lower rumble, and just overall just made it sound a little bit meatier for the look that I was going for. Again, easy, cheap, 10-minute job, free. Next was one of the more controversial changes, and that was cutting the chain guard and removing this. So that used to come all the way down across there at that level and around, and so I cut that back so that you could see the chain, see the sprocket, but it would still give protection if that chain does break, and a little bit of protection against spray. I used some paint to cover this section, which is the sort of 2-in-1 box that the Virago uses to sort of like vent the back cylinder. It's a bizarre system, don't get me started, but ultimately that was pretty badly rusted, so I just gave that a quick spray paint. Took off the rear pillion pegs and heel plate that sat there, because I had no intention of running a pillion on it. It just simply doesn't have enough power, I don't think. And then on this side, there's a pillion peg out there. I cut the mount off, and then fortunately the pipe was actually 7/8, so I had some old bar ends that I hammered in, and looks great. Just cleans it up, almost looks stock really. Next job was the struts, and they're 10.5-inch Hell Bend from the USA Sportster struts. They come with an insert to sort of convert them from 12mm to 9/16, I believe, which is the Sportster mount. Fortunately, if you take that insert out, they fit the Virago 250 perfectly, because the studs there are 12mm. Perfect. It lowers it quite substantially and just gives it mean attitude. Just looks the biz, just purely because it is lowered. You can see it on that side. Painted the silver bolts black just to make it blend in and make it a little bit more sort of hardtail looking. Again, for something so simple and relatively cheap, the struts are actually only about $45, but by the time I paid another $40 to get them sent from the US, it was $85, $90 job. But yeah, look at it, this looks amazing. From the struts, it was the springer seat and the mount and the springs, because it had that 10-inch air mattress that was on it standard, and that was a reasonable job to install, but fairly simple, just working methodically through it. And because I haven't made a seat pan yet, I've just run some inner tube tyre rubber underneath there to cover the electrics and make it blend in a little bit better. I'm actually quite happy with how that looks actually. I'm contemplating whether I need a seat pan, whether it actually would look better with a correctly cut piece of rubber jammed in there. We'll think about that. That's a future video for sure. Most recent customization, the final job I've done before doing this video, was putting these cool chrome billet indicators on the back and the front. If you remember, it had these shocking lollipops sticking out that far. They were ridiculous and just looked crazy. So I was glad to get rid of them. And then it had this bizarre luggage rack, come handle, come sissy bar, come stupid looking thing on the back that I was pretty glad to get rid of. And even without actually cutting the back fender, just looks much more bobber-like, retro-like. The indicators are up here on the sissy bar, so I've relocated them there, and I've just used the rubber plugs that were there to mount in there to cover some of those holes. So guys, that was just a very quick walk around of Gilby, just showing the modifications so far. And we've got plenty to go. It might look like it's getting there, but I've probably got the same amount of mods planned to go. So if you can join me, if you can like, because it really helps the channel. If you could subscribe, that helps the channel even more. And that hit the bell and get the notifications so that you can see the Gilby build develop from here. I'll be most appreciative. Guys, this is Budget Bobber Build, and it's just a quick recap of the customization done to Gilby so far. Join us for the next round. Guys, my name's Taz, and I am